My name is Yves de Beer. I'm a power specialist in Belgium. Together with my colleague Ludovic, we will do an introduction on Ansible and show you some of the demos. First, an introduction. We'll try to keep it short. What is Ansible, if you're not familiar with it yet, and how we can use it to automate IBM Power systems. So what it is all about, well, we used to do a lot of things, start to install systems, configuring them, and then repeating the same task over and over. Maybe you need to deploy a bunch of LPRs, install software, maintain security. Well, all these tasks you can really start to automate in a fashion with using Ansible for that. Now, Ansible itself is a vibrant open source community. It's like everything Red Hat does. It's an open source version, and there's a commercial version as well. So there are some interesting statistics about the popularity of this ecosystem. And there are thousands of Ansible modules, and we'll get to that in a moment, what a module is. And in fact, these modules, they are downloaded hundreds of thousands of times each month. So a lot of developers are contributing to that as well. And it's something that's very attractive in this community. And that's also why it becomes very important, because of the ecosystem around this. So anything you want to automate, there's certainly an Ansible module available for you to start using that. So that it's something is very popular and is growing continuously. It is, in fact, and why it is so popular, it's a very simple technology. Because of the way it is deployed, you don't need an agent to install on your target system. It's all based on an SSH connection. And when you're running an Ansible playbooks under the cover, what is happening is, in fact, it's copying the Python code over to the endpoint, and there it runs the task that you either through a module or the Ansible out-of-the-box commands. It's running there on your target system to do whatever you want it to automate. So this is a bit self-explanatory slide. It illustrates whatever you can automate with that. Can be configuration management, network automation, application deployment, edge automation, even cloud automation, provisioning, for example, LPRs, endpoint protection, security, compliance checking, all those kind of things. So Ansible is open source. Like I said, it's agentless. And all it needs is an SSH connection to your target system. So we can provision partitions like Power VC. And for example, for this Power VC, Ansible relies on OpenStack modules to deploy, for example, an IBMi partition. So we are able, even with for IBMi, we are able to create, install, delete objects. We can deploy new products, update software, check partition status, all those kind of things you would normally do in an interactive session, but now you can use Ansible for that as well. And here is a short overview of what is typically it consists of. You have a control node, call it your Ansible server, where you typically deploy these or run your Ansible playbooks. These are YAML based. So they are special syntax for that. If you're familiar with YAML, you know it's very strict with spaces, how to tap the tasks and all the variables in that. So it consists of one or multiple tasks, and each task can make use of a module which can be installed on your Ansible server. And then you can deploy these tasks, run these tasks against your managed nodes, which are connected through an SSH connection. So this was a very short introduction about Ansible. I will now switch it over to Ludovic.
Okay. Now Yves has explained how to use Ansible in general, and now I will explain with more details how to use Ansible with IBM Power, especially on IBMi. Alors, first, an important element is you have Ansible engine, and you have a lot of extra elements named collections. It's like plugins or packages on Linux where you can add extra features of Ansible engine. And for IBM Power, you need some collections, especially in IBMi collection, to be able to launch commands on your IBMi LPAR. And you have Ansible Galaxy, where it's a place where you can download any kind of collection, but it can be garbage also. You must be careful about collection you are using. And you have also the Ansible Automation Hub, where you have certified collection, especially collection to manage your HMC, to manage AX, to manage VIOS, and also to manage IBMi. About IBMi itself, you have plenty of modules to be able to manage your IBMi, specifically to be able to create a library, to create users, to execute SQL or CL scripts. And last but not least, you have several examples of playbooks directly on the GitHub repository of Ansible IBMi, where you can install requirements to execute Ansible on IBMi, or an example to how to install Node.js automatically on IBMi, and some example to check the security of password or fix group check. Okay. But as IBMi system administrator, you have the habit to connect to IBMi with 5250 port, or eventually with SSH. You do some manual installation of piece of software. You edit configuration files. You document what you are doing on IBMi LPAR in Word files or on Wiki. And last but not least, certainly you already automate your system with CL or the SQL scripting. Why use Ansible if you are already a specialist of SQL or CL? Simply because with CL or SQL program language, you automate only inside the LPAR of IBMi. Contrary to the Ansible, you can have an holistic approach to manage all elements of your infrastructure, the storage, the network, the DNS, and you have plenty of modules on with Ansible to be able to manage cloud, to manage network elements like Cisco, RabbitMQ, SAP, even Windows. It's possible to manage QRadar, Kubernetes, OpenShift. And with Ansible, it's possible to execute your existing SQL script and CL script with a special command named IBMi script. I will show you after. And another interesting element of Ansible is very easy to install and to start. You only need to launch a command on your system where you have a Python installed. Okay, I show you why now. I'm typing pip install Ansible, and here is downloading or using the package.
So you're running this on your machine,
Yeah,
right?
I'm running on my machine. I'm using my laptop as control node.
Yep.
And after I will use Ansible Galaxy collection install to install the collection of IBMi. It's finishing to install.
Yeah, the Ansible Galaxy, that's the way to install modules. Or you can also download the module, I think, and install it yourself.
It's easier to use Ansible Galaxy directly.
Yeah.
Voilà. Now I have the Ansible command version. Okay, it's installed. Now I'm using this command to install IBMi. It's already installed on my system. I can force to reinstall it. Voilà. Now it's installed, and now I can use my laptop as control node to be able to automate on the other system. And I can do that with only two commands, with Ansible itself or Ansible-playbook. And the only file you need is the host file. We'll show you the content of this host file. Host file, it's a ini file where each line you have the name of the server. Here I have 3 IBMi LPAR. And for IBMi, I need a specific variable, Ansible Python interpreter, simply because by default, Python on IBMi LPAR is installed in other location compared to a classical Linux LPAR.
Then you also mentioned the Ansible user,
Yeah.
which needs to be mapped to user known on the system, right?
Yeah. So here you can see I have my my file. I have my the variable, and now I can use the Ansible command. In fact, Ansible command is a command where you can use any type of module. Donc here I will use the module. Donc here it's the my config file with the list of hosts. The module. Here I will use shell, and here I will simply launch a command ps to see the list of process of my IBMi LPAR. And this, it's the name of the server I want to execute, or the group, because I put all servers on the group named IBMi. And you have the documentation of Ansible is very powerful. It's very easy to understand. It's always in the same way for all documentation. You can see all parameters for each module. I will show you that afterwards. But in fact, the main important element is examples, simply to see how to use the module. And here, go back on my example. Here, it's the folder where I have my playbooks and where I have my host file. You see my host file. I can show the content. The content you already seen. And now I can type Ansible. My inventory file. the module I want to execute. And I can type here the group or a specific name of the server. I launch that. And with that, I already have an access to the ecosystem of Ansible, where it's possible for you to execute any type of command or any module you want on all your servers you have in parallel. Here I can see for each server, I can see what is running on this server. Okay. But the real interest of Ansible is not only to be able to execute any type of command on all servers, but also to write playbooks. And here I have a playbook to create IBMi user. And it's very easy to understand how to use. It's self-explanatory compared to Python or any scripted language. It's always the same structure. You have the name of the task in plain English, and it's important to put the right name in it because it will be used when we will execute the Ansible playbook command to show each step. You have the name of the module. Here it's IBMi CL command. You have two parameters, the command itself I want to execute, and the job log. Here to explain, okay, I don't want a job log. And if I want to put extra parameters, I can go to the documentation. I am in documentation of Ansible for IBMi. And here, as you explained, you have examples, a simple example, and you have all parameters with all values, if it's required or not, and what kind of data you can put for each parameter. Okay, now I show you the execution. Look, I have my playbook.
What's also important, sorry,
Yeah.
is the register over there, because then you will register the outputs of the command into a variable, which you can then later use depending if it's false or true to do maybe another action. So that's something also.
Yeah.
Put some more logic into your tasks.
Yeah. Thank you, Yves, for the extra information. And the other information, you have also a notion of tags inside Ansible, where you can execute only a part of a playbook. And I can show you that right now. Okay. Now I am using the Ansible playbook command. I still have the inventory command. Now a new parameter named L, like limit. Okay, now I want to execute that on all server, for example, or I can put a specific name of a server, for example, this server, just to show you an extra scenario. And now I simply type the name of my Ansible playbook. And I can add also a tag simply to show you I will launch only the creation of Ans demo user. And now enter. Okay. Here you can see the name you will put of the task. And in the background is executing the creation of Ants. Now if I remove my tag and I put IBMi, now you can see it will run the command on all. Voilà. I have an issue for the first one simply because the user is already created. And I have put ignore tag. Voilà. And now it's okay. now all users has created. And the playbook has continued to execute because I have the parameter in your errors to true. And now I can execute another script, user compliance. It's another module from Power IBMi where you can put some checks about the users. Donc here I have the list of users I want to check, and if it's enabled, the type of password, and I execute that right now. Okay. It means with Ansible, it's possible to implement some security checks to have an ID. Okay, if somebody has changed something, voilà. And now I can see the result of this of the execution and see if it's enabled or not, and the type of SQL launched by the module itself. I have an extra scenario inside the GitHub repository of Ansible. You have a scenario to check the default password, and I can launch also. And here, and I will show you the content just after. It executes a list of profiles, and it's possible to put specific action. You have some parameters you can put to say, okay, if I spot, if the playbook spot user without a password, for example, it's possible to disable the playbook, the user with this extra parameter. Okay. Now this is up to you.
So this is all part of the IBM reference on GitHub, I think.
Yeah.
Because there you can find some nice playbook examples and also use cases like the security compliance check of your IBMi systems. You can just start playing with that use case playbook that's ready for you to work with.
Yeah.
And I've also heard about people using Ansible playbooks just to gather information from all their systems, like sort of an inventory at what level they are, PTFs and everything. So use that more as a management tool to fill up a repository and get reports on the latest activities on systems, or maybe they need to be updated, or the security compliance check, okay, that kind of stuff. So there are different use cases for everything. Yeah. So that's it.
That's it.
Okay. So I'll take you to some more demos around looking how we can interact with IBMi. And you see here the IBMi screen. And in fact, what I'm going to show you, I have a direct connection as well using SSH to the IBMi system. So that's just the SSH connection on my home directory. And in fact, what I have, like Ludovic mentioned, we have a host file. Well, I call it here inventory, which is the default, I think. If you don't specify anything, it will look for this inventory file. And yeah, I split it up into Linux because I have a Linux 1 system in the cloud as well, where I will show you something, and the IBMi system using a specific user to connect with that. So I've already set up an SSH connection. So my Ansible is able to connect using that Ansible key to which is trusted on the target system. And so either you can copy the SSH key using the SSH copy ID, or finally it is stored in the .ssh directory. And there's a file called authorized keys. Let's start with Bash. It should work better. So in fact, this is an SSH key which was added by Ludovic, and this is my public key which I'm using to. So in fact, we're both using the same system with our Ansible servers, but we're using a different key to connect to that system. But they're all mapped to this same user, CAC user. And I can do the same. In fact, I can, as I also have a group of IBMi, as you see in the inventory, I can just do, for example, a ping. It's not an ICMP ping, but it's the ping module from Ansible, and it should give me a pong back, knowing that, okay, we have a solid connection to our target system. What's also interesting, and I mentioned this fact of getting an inventory of your systems, is that there is a command, gather facts, and it should work on every target system. But it gives you all the details about the running and the operating environment on your target system. So you will see the Python versions, the levels of kernel, everything on the machine, the shell. So lots of information about the target machine, the architecture and everything like that. So you can start using that to build up your inventory, for example, and get the latest information and status about your system.
And it's also possible to take decisions inside your Ansible playbooks based on these values.
Yeah. Maybe send a mail or inform people about, or send out a report. So let's see. Let's connect now to our system. So I have here a connection to the IBMi system. Let's look at our subsystems. For example, I have a small playbook to stop a subsystem on my IBMi system. You see QCMN is currently active, and we're just going to stop this using an Ansible playbook. While I'm in this playbook, I also want to mention that we have AI embedded to help you speed up the development of these Ansible playbooks. And Ludovic did mention that, okay, you have, he showed you the list of modules that are available. You can look up the syntax, all the options you have on the internet, on the Ansible Galaxy, I think, on the details of the modules. But in order to speed up, you can just mention it as in plain English. As soon as I hit, you see at the bottom that it connects to LightSpeed, which Ludovic will go into a bit more detail. And he will give you a suggestion. If I tap, he will accept this. And you see, in fact, that by this, I was able to get a correct syntax already to complete the task He knows about which command or module needs to run on the IBMi system in order to stop this. Well, of course, the subsystem you still need to change, but you get all the parameters directly. So it can really speed up your development. Let's switch back. And now we can just run this playbook.
And with this example, Yves will show us how it's possible to change the state inside IBMi itself. Yeah.
That's correct.
Maybe the inventory, no?
No, but like I said, by default, you had to
okay.
specify the host file, but by default, it takes the inventory file.
Okay.
I think this is also part of the, what is it? The Ansible CFG file. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's some configuration file which you can also play with where to find your keys. And the inventory is the inventory, of course.
Okay.
So he has run the playbook, and if everything works out fine, we should do a refresh over here and see that QCMN has stopped as a subsystem. So that's how you can use these commands directly from your playbook. Of course, we can do the same. Just start it again. And it's effect the same, pretty similar command just to start the subsystem. And then we have it back. So this is very basic interaction. And as a final one, I also have here some SQL commands to fill up a table with some patient data. And in fact, you could consider this as a sort of an deployment of an application. So it's a bit longer, I would say not complex, but you can easily follow this to deploy a database and put some data in it. So let's quickly run through the playbook. Make it a bit bigger. So what this playbook will do is we'll create a user test with a default password. Well, it's good for testing, but not for production. We'll create a directory home tests for the user. And as a next step, we will also verify if Git is installed. If Git is it is not there, then we will install it. Finally, we will create a symbolic link to user bin git. We'll set some parameters to skip the SSL verification when we do a git clone. And we will just clone this repo because the repo contains my playbook. Everything, in fact, you see over here, it's also available on Git. So you can always use this, play with it afterwards as well. And what's next is we will create the database patient. And we will run the SQL statements to fill up, to create a table and fill it up with some data. And finally, we will query the patient info table to get this information, and we will show it here as a debug message. So let's run this playbook. So we can see the results of each step in there. If one either would, you see, Git is already installed, so we're skipping that step. He's downloading, still setting the parameters for Git, cloning the repo. He's creating the patient library. and then running the SQL command to fill up the patient table. And then as a final step, we should see the results, a query on this patient table to get the information about 4 patients, I think, that are in there. So you can see also that the user profile of tests was created. When we look on our system, where am I? In home, you see there's a test directory was created. When we look into the app, we see that we have the same. In fact, it was the git clone was executed, so we pulled down all the information and started everything that needed to complete the runbook, because he was referring to here to run this to fill up the database with using this SQL statement. So that's another command. Well, of course, ESP lib. You can see that the library was created. Of course, that's what we already guessed, since we got a positive result out of that. So that's sure to see how we can interact with the system. You can have different scenarios, use cases to use Ansible for that, but it's very easy to run and reuse things like you would normally do on the green screen, but then really start to automate that.
And the good, very interesting element is about documentation. Instead to have a script and you have a Word file or wiki, here, in fact, you document at the same time your code with the name of each task. And it's easier for external people to be able to understand what you are doing with your Ansible playbooks.
And with the Ansible LightSpeed, you can use this text with you put in a name to speed up the AI to give you propositions on completing the task. So next, I have another. You've seen everything on the command line. Let's see if it works out fine. There's also a graphical user interface, which is, well, an interface to Ansible, I would say. We're using AWX. AWX is the upstream project of the Red Hat Ansible platform.
Yeah, Ansible
automation platform. And
in fact, here you can start directly from your laptop. But when you have several DevOps are working on system, it's interesting to have a bastion, to have a place where you executing all playbooks. And the interest of Red Hat Automation Platform is to have a web interface to see who execute what at what moment, and to keep a log.
I will show you that in a minute, but quickly to go through it, basic steps are a bit similar like we did with using the command line. We have credentials, for example. This is my SSH key. I already loaded it up into the system. My username is here Linux 1, since I will be running a playbook against a Linux 1 system. And my private key, of course, it's loaded into the environment, but you see it here, it's encrypted. Next, what you need is an inventory containing your systems. For example, I have the Ansible demo inventory. I can have groups in there, like we mentioned already within the host file or inventory file. We have a group of IBMi and Linux One. And then you can have your hosts. In this case, I only have one host, which is related to the group Linux One. So that's basically what we need to create. And there's a central project, so you can define different projects on different systems. Just call it here Ansible demo. And what this does, in fact, is that it has its source control URL referring to my GitHub repository where I have my Ansible playbooks. It is synced with my environment. And what else is in there? So that's basically what you need. And finally, the playbook themselves, they are called templates here. So I have an install HTTP server, for example. If we look at this, it's part of the inventory Ansible demo. So that's where you will install it to my target systems. It's part of the project Ansible demo. It's using the credentials from my system, and then, well, that's basically it. You can also schedule jobs. That's also very important in this environment. And to show you that, well, this is my target system. There's no HTTP server running. And let's launch this command. So what it's doing now, this software is running on an OpenShift environment here on my local machine. And it's creating a container to execute this task to do whatever you have defined in there. So it's going through the same steps. It's installing the HTTP package, adding support for PHP, and finally also starting the HTTP daemon. Because, well, some systems, I think Ubuntu, when you install a package, automatically get started.
Yeah.
In our case, we still needed to start it. And as a result, we'll just do a reload to see that, okay, it was finished successfully. And now we go back to our system, we do a reload, and we see that we have our web server deployed in there. And when we look at the playbook itself, it's a very simple one. It just updates the repository index using the DNF command, installs the latest version of HTTP, also for PHP, and then finally a service task to start.
Clearly, here you have the beauty of Ansible, where in fact, even if you don't have any knowledge about Ansible, it's pretty easy to understand what this Ansible playbook is doing.
Yeah. And like Ludovic mentioned, it's very interesting. If you're looking at your jobs, if you have multiple people working on the system, you have everything that was run on this system. Even if it was canceled or failed, you will get all the details in there. So there's lots of things to experiment with. Maybe we'll do another session on the Red Hat version versus the upstream project, and all the more details what you can do with that. But that's basically what a nice interface as a next step to really start rolling with this into your environment.
Okay, during the demo of Eve, you have seen inside Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code, it's an open source editor you can use to edit any kind of code, Ansible and other code. And IBM, with the help of Red Hat, has implemented WatsonX Code Assistant for Red Hat Ansible LightSpeed. And these components enabled for you to directly inside your code editor VS Code with the extension of Ansible to be able to use generative AI to implement, to generate simply tasks inside your Ansible playbook. And it's possible to upload datasets to customize the model. Here I have few demos, but I think run. Let me go back. Donc, as you can see during the demo of Eve,
Make it full screen.
no, because
Okay.
I have a bug. Here, as you can see on the animation, you simply type the name of the task, and it will generate several tasks based on the prompt you put on it.
No, it's not just one task, but if
yeah.
you say end this and
Yeah.
do that, you can
Yeah.
create multiple tasks for that.
Yeah. As you can see here, and a killer feature compared to ChatGPT, it's possible to have the source of the task to see, okay, your Ansible LightSpeed has generated this task based on the content of this playbook or this source, because it's very important for as a sysadmin to know the source where you're executing, simply because we already seen in the past some open source projects have infected by malware or bad code. It's pretty important to be able to audit the origin of your generative AI. And obviously, the idea behind that is to reduce the time and the gap to be able to implement Ansible playbooks, especially for newcomers. And the last slide, we have put several interesting resources for you to be able to start